Alright, so I'm going to show you, I've got the X10 Pro here, the Quest X10 Pro, but this applies to many of the more entry-level metal detectors, including the X5 or even the older Nocta Simplex or whatever machine you've got. If it's a entry-level machine like this one, when you get down to the beach, a lot of people complain that it does a lot of false signals down close to the wet sand or in the water. So what most people will generally do is just lower the sensitivity, which is sometimes the only thing you can do in order to calm the machine down. However, on machines that have manual ground balance, there's a little trick that I want to show you. So as you can see, we're on the wet sand now, and the machine is just beeping at every sweep. It's unusable. You can't use it like this. There's no ways. So on machines that have ground balance, you could try and ground balance the machine. But as you see, the machine is struggling to ground balance under these conditions, and it's still falsing. So the little trick, if you can manually ground balance. So like on the Quest X10 Pro, all you do is you hold down the ground balance button and then just lower the ground balance number all the way down to 0. Once you've done that, the machine will calm down nicely, as you will see. Okay, we've now manually ground balanced this machine down to 0. And that's already a lot better. So we're on the wet sand at the beach on a very cheap entry-level machine. Okay, now we're getting some chirps. So we've ground balanced to 0. Now we hit our sensitivity, and you bring that down. So let's make it 50. You're always going to have to sacrifice a little bit of sensitivity when you're at the beach on the wet sand. But it's still very usable. So you're getting the odd chirp here and there, especially if you hit the ground. If you hit the ground, you're definitely going to get chirps everywhere. Keep the coil above the ground, but as you can hear, the odd chirp here or there, but a lot more stable. Okay, so I've reduced the sensitivity quite a bit. I've had to reduce it down to 40 on this machine. Ground balanced it to 0. Ground balance to 0, I've reduced the sensitivity quite a bit, so that will affect our depth, of course. We're not going to get as much depth as we normally would when we have the sensitivity higher, but the machine is running stable on the wet sand, and in the water it's still chirping a little bit. We're getting the saltwater overload occasionally. That's just because there's so much salt content here. But as you can see, on the whole, you can still use the machine. In the water, you're still going to get some chirps. You'll probably be able to pick up a good target versus a chirp, but if you want it to be more stable, on the wet sand, as you can hear, so we've actually picked up a target, yeah? So here we go. So let's try and dig it out and see what it is. What is this? I think it's just a piece of junk foil, maybe. Or is it? No, it actually looks like something half decent, to be fair. I'm not sure what that is. Let's see. But there you go. So the little X10 Pro, found this in the wet sand. So it just shows you can find, obviously, as I said, your depth is going to be reduced naturally because we have reduced the sensitivity quite a bit, but it's still usable. Of course, if you want a machine that's going to go deep on the wet sand and do really well in the water and get good depth, you're going to need to go with a mid-range machine. You know, the entry-level machines are not the best for beach work. Beach is a very difficult ground condition to work. But there you have it. You can get the machine quite quiet while you are detecting. See, just found a target. Let's see what it is. Another interesting target. Again, looks like something interesting, but I can't exactly make out what it is. But it looks nice. So I'll have to clean it up, see what it is, but there you go, X10 Pro, wet sand at the beach. On the zero ground balance and reduced sensitivity, and we're still finding targets. Just at a different part of the beach now, and I'm running the sensitivity much higher than I was at the lower part of the beach. So you always got to just adjust for your conditions at the beach, because here it's running nice and smooth in the wet sand, and I'm running at a much higher sensitivity. I'm running at 60 sensitivity. So it just shows you different parts of the beach will react differently to the salt water. And you can run it a bit higher in some parts and lower at others. So always just adjust your sensitivity for where you're working. Ground balance, just keep it at 0. And as you can hear, the machine's running nice and stable here. Of course with the odd chirp again, but if you need to, just reduce the sensitivity. In the wet sand, signal, let's see what we get. Still in there. So it's quite deep. Keen to see what it is. We'll come back and try and get that better. Okay, a pull tab, but it got it nice and deep. So this way, pull tab, got it nice and deep, and that's in the wet sand with the X10 Pro. So just showing you, you will find targets. They could have so easily have been a gold ring. Instead it was a pull tab, comes up exactly the same. A beach detectorist's nightmare. Always got to dig the pull tabs to find the good stuff, right? But happy with that. Happy that the little X10 Pro was working nicely on the wet sand here. The occasional chirp, sure, but you can easily determine a good signal from a chirp. So in the shallow surf here, I've really reduced the sensitivity quite a bit. I've reduced it down to 30, so it is very low. So you're going to lose depth, but okay, that's an overload signal which you'll get occasionally from the huge amount of salt water that's over the coil. But as you can see, it's running still pretty smoothly here. Full tab. X10 Pro at the beach on the wet sand. Need to ground balance it manually down to 0. Once you've done that, you're going to have to just play with its sensitivity and get it down to a level that's working for you at the beach where it becomes more stable. Gonna get a few chirps here and there, but it's still easy to determine a real target from just a little chirp. Obviously in the water, it's a little bit more difficult. If you're really looking for a machine that's gonna be for beach hunting, that's mainly wet sand and in the water, then you're probably better off looking at a more mid-range machine, something like the Quest Q35 or the V80. But these entry-level machines like the X10 Pro, X5, it just shows you that it actually can work at the beach, even though they're not designed for it. So dry sand, no problem. At the parks, fields, no problem. Wet sand and in the water is always a difficult one at the beach, but as I said, manually ground balance it down to 0, reduce that sensitivity quite a bit, and then it becomes quite stable. So there you go. Thank you.